native of Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, Ed Ewing lived in Tarentum and Natrona Heights, 2 towns north of Pittsburgh, during his early childhood. His mother, Alice, was a homemaker, and his father, Ed Sr., served in the military, eventually advancing to the rank of lieutenant colonel in the United States Air Force. During Ed's adolescence, the Ewing family lived in various locations, including Clovis, New Mexico, Battle Creek, Michigan, Warner Robins, Georgia, and Narama, Japan. Ed spent his high school junior and senior years at Fishburne Military School located in Waynesburg, Virginia. There he began to develop a keen interest in history, with a preference for the study of the Civil War. After his graduation from Fishburne in 1961, Ed moved on to Bloomsburg State College, now Bloomsburg University, where he majored in secondary education with a concentration in history and social science. There he was befriended by a professor who served as his mentor and further deepened his passion for all things history. His post-college years culminated in his tenure as a high school history teacher and department chair for the Oley Valley School District in Oley, PA. For 33 years, Ed taught a wide range of subjects including American history, European history, sociology, history of Germany, and Civil War history. At Oley Valley, he also met me, his future wife Joanne, when I was a high school English teacher and department chair. Throughout his teaching career, Ed was known for his booming voice, his vast historical knowledge, his talent as a lecturer, and his larger-than-life personality. He engaged his students with his infusion of humor and interesting anecdotes into his teaching. Ed retired from teaching in 2000. He spent much of his post-retirement time visiting numerous historical sites and attending militaria auctions, amassing a sizable and eclectic collection of weapons, books, ephemera, and battlefield relics. One of his favorite activities after these visits and auctions was to painstakingly research the provenance of his acquisitions. Although several of his ancestors served in the Union Army during the Civil War, Ed held a special interest in Confederate items. Unfortunately, Ed was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 2018. He continued his attendance at auctions and his travels to historical sites until his condition severely affected his physical mobility and his cognitive abilities. Ed died of complications associated with Parkinson's disease in September of 2021. Ed will always be remembered as a lifelong student of history, an avid reader, an enthusiastic Pittsburgh Steelers fan, a devoted husband to me, and a loving dad to his golden retrievers Casey, Clancy, and Murphy, and his Irish wolfhound Kelly. His greatest legacy is the many students who learned valuable lessons in history and in life in his classes. In fact, several of his students have gone on to become respected history teachers because of Ed's influence, guidance, and mentorship.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hess Auction Group YouTube channel. Today, we will be highlighting the Edgar Ewing Civil War collection. The dates of this auction are February 7th and February 8th. Eric, can you tell me more about this auction?
Yes, I'd love to talk about it. In this industry, 25 years, Alec, it's very rare that we get to find such a diverse collection that Edgar had. He had some incredible items, everything from contract muskets, edged weaponry, headgear, artillery projectiles, belt plates. Edgar had just about everything.
Absolutely. Is there any pieces in particular that stand out to you?
Well, there's quite a few, but the one thing that caught my attention as we got to work on this is this 1832 short sword. Mm-hmm. The first thing that I noticed with it, Alec, is a very rare two-piece Confederate belt plate. You don't often get to find those. What a true relic.
Right. That's very interesting. I noticed this jacket back here. Can you tell me anything about that?
Oh, yeah. Check this out, Alec. Tell you what, very rare to find this indeed. Intact liner, original shoulder scales, all of its buttons. What a piece of history, Alec.
Absolutely. And is there any piece in particular that also stands out to you?
You know what? Another thing, rare find, Alec, Star Carbine ammo box. I mean, think about that. How many do you think ever survived after the war? Right there's a great example.
Absolutely. It looks like a fabulous auction that you really don't want to miss.
No.
Is there anything that you could tell me about Edgar?
Well, you know what? I had the pleasure the other day to sit down with his wife, Joanne. First off, Joanne, I want to thank you for giving me the honor of representing Ed's collection. It's been a very enjoyable process to work with you, and I can't thank you enough for entrusting us with Ed's collection.
Well, if I may say so, it was really a pleasure to work with Hess Auction House. Ed and I used to come here frequently, at least once a month, most of the time, to be looking at things, and certainly for the arms and military auctions. And he looked forward to coming over here and doing a lot of buying and a lot of looking around and observing. So, and I think he amassed a lot of his collection actually from this auction house. He enjoyed being among the people. He got to know several people from the auction house. He got to know some of the people that came as bidders as well and befriended them as well. He always considered that this auction house had things in great shape, and he loved getting the catalogs so that he could peruse them. He would sit for hours just looking over the catalog and marking things in the catalog that he wanted to bid on. So, and sometimes it got really extensive. Believe me, I'm starting to watch our bank account flatten a lot of times, but I enjoyed coming with him as well. There was one specific day where we came here because in the catalog, he had seen that there were a lot of Confederate belt plates that were going to be sold, and he was a connoisseur of belt plates. He loved belt plates. So we walked into the auction house and we saw the belt plates on display on a couple of tables. And he said, "Oh my goodness, this is great. This will be great. And these are in really good shape." And then we turned towards the door, the entrance door. And there was a fellow that Ed knew from Virginia who was a belt plate collector who walked in here. And Ed turned to me and he said, "We're not getting anything today, Joanne. We aren't going to get any of those belt plates," because he knew what wide pockets this fellow had and how much of a collector he was.
Tell me how Ed's collection began.
Well, Ed was a college student, and he was befriended actually by a professor who had an intense interest in the Civil War. And that's where the interest on Ed's part sparked. And eventually, he didn't collect right away after college, not immediately after college, but he started collecting, I would say, in the 70s, in the 1970s. And the first things that he collected actually were a lot of relics, relics from the battlefield, because he was poor at that time. He was a poor college student at that time, or post-college student. He was a beginning teacher and didn't have a great deal of money. But that really burgeoned as time went on. And as he got older and as he got a little bit more wealthy, if you want to call it that, not really wealthy, but he was a little bit better off financially, he got a real interest in a lot of different items. So there were times when he had phases when he was really into collecting weapons. And then there were other times when he had a phase when he was into collecting ephemera. Some of that was a really big thing for him. And he took painstaking care to make sure that ephemera actually maintained its quality.
Yeah.
He really wanted to have that maintain its quality. As time went on, he also branched off into collecting toy soldiers as well, because he was a student not only of Civil War history, but also of various other forms of history as well. So his toy soldier collection actually, it spans from Civil War soldiers all the way over to soldiers in the Indian Army and Zouaves, and from all over the globe, actually, from various campaigns. So he really enjoyed that. He enjoyed it very, very much. He enjoyed actually also researching anything that he bought here at the auction house or anything that he bought elsewhere or found elsewhere. He used to research that painstakingly. That was the first thing that he used to do when we arrived home from the auction house, was dash upstairs to his room where he had his source books, and he'd be looking over the source books, and he'd spend hours and hours doing that.
Yeah, the one thing I found fascinating was when I got to work with his ambrotypes and the CDVs.
Mm-hmm.
He had so much information documented about those. It's rare to find identified photographs and to have as many as Ed had. It was just fascinating.
Well, when Ed and I moved into our house, we had a house built from new in Ruskin Manor Township in Pennsylvania, in Berks County. What we actually did was to have a family room. And I thought this will be really nice because we can watch TV over here and we can, relax and everything. Well, he got the idea that he was going to turn the family room into a library. And that's what it actually ended up being. He had books, so many books, and he was a collector of books. The one thing that I admired about Ed was the fact that he did not just collect books and put them on a shelf somewhere. We have a lot of bookshelves at home in our house. But he also would read everything that he collected. And that's what caused him to be so well read. He was so well versed. He was very intelligent.